This bush makes natural honey without bees. One plant equals 10 hives. Why did the industry hide it? For thousands of years, honey has meant only one thing: bees. Golden, sweet, and incredibly nutritious, honey has always been associated with buzzing hives, hardworking pollinators, and careful beekeepers. But what if a plant could produce something shockingly similar to honey, without a single bee involved? It sounds impossible, yet nature has already engineered something astonishing. Certain nectar-rich plants and shrubs produce so much sugary sap and floral nectar that it can be collected and transformed into a honey-like syrup that closely mimics traditional honey in flavor, texture, and color. Even more surprising, one mature bush can generate nectar quantities comparable to what multiple beehives produce. And yet, almost no one talks about it. The secret behind plant honey. Plants naturally produce nectar to attract pollinators. Normally, bees gather that nectar and convert it into honey through enzymes and evaporation inside their hives. But some plants produce nectar in such abundance that humans can harvest it directly. Certain shrubs and flowering plants secrete thick, sugar-rich nectar droplets from their blossoms or stems. When collected and gently heated, the liquid concentrates into a golden syrup that looks, smells, and tastes remarkably like honey. In some traditional cultures, people have harvested nectar directly from plants for centuries, long before industrial beekeeping existed. One example comes from flower-rich bushes used to produce nectar syrups that resemble honey so closely many people cannot tell the difference. One plant equals the output of multiple hives. A healthy nectar-producing bush can, bloom with thousands of flowers at the same time. Each flower releases just small amounts of nectar every day. Individually, that may seem insignificant, but when you multiply that across thousands of blossoms, the amount of nectar produced daily becomes, honestly, enormous. In ideal conditions, a single large bush can generate enough nectar to equal the daily nectar collection of several beehives. Some plants produce nectar continuously throughout their flowering season, which means a steady flow of sweet liquid for weeks or even months. For small farmers or gardeners, this could actually represent a pretty powerful alternative source of natural sweeteners. Why haven't you heard about it? If this idea has existed for centuries, why isn't plant-based honey sold everywhere? The answer lies in economics, labeling laws, and tradition. The honey industry is enormous. Globally, honey production supports millions of beekeepers and generates billions of dollars every year. Legally, the word honey is reserved for products made by bees. Any plant-derived syrup, no matter how similar, cannot officially be marketed as honey. This makes plant nectar syrup difficult to introduce commercially. It must be labeled as syrup or nectar concentrate, which dramatically reduces its market appeal. Consumers trust the word honey, and companies hesitate to promote alternatives that might confuse buyers. Despite regulatory hurdles, plant-derived honey alternatives have several fascinating advantages. First, they do not rely on bees. While bees are essential pollinators, global bee populations have faced serious threats from pesticides, habitat loss, and climate change. Reducing pressure on bees could help protect these critical insects. Second, harvesting plant nectar can be extremely sustainable. A single shrub can continue producing nectar year after year with minimal maintenance. No hives, protective gear, or colony management is required. Third, plant nectar syrups can be produced almost anywhere. Backyards, small farms, and community gardens could potentially cultivate nectar-rich plants and harvest their sweet sap with simple tools. For regions where beekeeping is difficult due to climate or pests, plant-based nectar could offer a new source of natural sweeteners. Surprisingly close to real honey. Honestly, that's one of the biggest shocks for people tasting plant-based honey alternatives. When you reduce nectar syrup slowly through gentle heating, it develops this golden color, a thick and sticky consistency, a floral aroma, and a rich caramel sweetness. Some of these syrups even crystallize slightly over time, just like natural honey does. And the exact flavor really depends on the plant species used, just as honey flavor varies depending on which flowers bees visit. Ancient knowledge rediscovered. In several cultures around the world, nectar collection has quietly existed for generations. Some communities actually harvest nectar from flowering plants and reduce it into sweet syrups for tea, desserts, and even traditional medicine. These practices never became global industries, mostly because beekeeping just offered a more convenient way to produce honey on a large scale. But as interest in sustainable foods grows, a lot of researchers and gardeners are now rediscovering the potential of nectar-producing plants. The future of honey alternatives is honestly pretty exciting. Plant-based honey alternatives could play a really important role in future food systems. With more awareness about pollinator protection and sustainable agriculture, new forms of natural sweeteners are definitely gaining attention. Some food innovators are already experimenting with plant-derived bee-free honey using flower nectar, fruit extracts, and botanical sugars. While these products are still emerging, they really hint at a future where honey-like sweeteners can be produced without putting stress on bee populations. The sweet secret in plain sight. Nature often hides its most fascinating secrets in the simplest places. The idea that a bush could produce honey-like sweetness without bees? Well, it kind of challenges everything we thought we knew about this ancient food. And yet, the principle is beautifully simple. Flowers create nectar. Nectar becomes sweetness. And with a little patience, that sweetness can be transformed into something almost indistinguishable from honey. The next time you see a flowering bush buzzing with nectar, you might actually be looking at something far more powerful than just a pretty plant. You might be looking at a hidden source of liquid gold.